The Braves take on the Mets game one of a doubleheader. And that's going to be a 5:10 Eastern first pitch in Flushing, Queens. This game's currently off the board. Ian Anderson for the Braves, Jake DeGrom for the Mets. We went 5-1 in our 6 premium sports picks on my Patreon website yesterday. And that's going to put us at 2-0 in our last couple of board member tier package picks on that Patreon page. We currently have over 1,100 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually putting my hard-earned money on today, the link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, Jake DeGrom, 6-2 with a .54 ERA. He's arguably the best in the game right now. The righty struck out 111 batters and comes into today's start with a .51 whip. The first place Mets are 4 games ahead of the Phillies in the NL East standings. They're also an impressive 20-7 straight up at Citi Field. They're taking on an Atlanta team who's in second to last place in the NL East. The Braves are currently 3 games below 500. And they've gotten the W in just 13 out of 29 road games. Dansby Swanson's batting just .233 with 77 strikeouts at the plate. Meanwhile, Freddie Freeman, he's batting just .247 despite all those homers. Atlanta's lost 3 out of their last 4 road games. I'm going to lean toward the New York Mets winning game 1 outright for some money line cash. Next ball game, Astros, Orioles, 7:05 East. Houston's -165, numbers 10. Odorizzi for Houston, Aiken for Baltimore. Now, the last place Orioles have the fewest wins in the American League. They're 25 games below 500, and they're in the bottom 3 in runs allowed. They're also giving up over 9.3 hits a game at home. And speaking of home field, the O's have gotten the W in only 12 out of 35 contests at Camden Yards. Keegan Aiken comes into today's start with an 0-2 record and a .576 ERA. Now, the lefty also has a whip of 1.45. Baltimore's taking on a first-place Houston club who's on a 7-game winning streak, and they lead the majors in hitting. Michael Brantley's batting .341. He's got an OPS of .898. Now, the outfielder is currently 3rd in the majors in batting average. Meanwhile, Yuli Gurriel is hitting .316 with 48 ribbies. He's in the top 15 in both of those stats. In addition to leading the majors in scoring on average per contest, this Houston pitching staff allows just 7.2 hits a game when they travel. And when it comes to the number in this one, Houston's gone 70% to the over in their last 10 ball games. Baltimore saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros -165 in the over 10 runs. Next ball game, A's Rangers, 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. The Oakland A's are -135, totals 8.5. Frankie Montas for Oakland, Kyle Gibson for Texas. But as good as Gibson's been this season, the last place Rangers are 21 games below 500. They lost their last 6 straight ball games. As Rangers lineups in the bottom 10 in home hits. They're also allowing just 3.6 runs per contest on their home field. They're taking on an Oakland club who won 7 out of their last 9. They've done a real nice job getting the W on the road. The A's are currently 19-11 straight up as the road team. They're in the top 5 in fewest walks allowed away from home. This Oakland pitching staff gives up only 3.7 runs a game when they travel. And of course, Frankie Montas comes into today's start with a 7-6 record along with 81 strikeouts. Now, total-wise, the A's are 60% to the under when they travel. Texas is 21-13 to the under on their home field. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's -135. and the under 8.5. Next matchup, Indians versus the Cubs, 8:05 Eastern start time. The Cubbies are -155, total 7.5. Albert Alzolay for Chicago, Aaron Savali for Cleveland. Savali's 10-2 thus far in this season, 3.48 ERA, and 71 strikeouts. The righties also got a 1.06 whip. Cleveland's won 7 out of their last 10 ball games, and they're in the top 3 in striking batters out on the road. Cleveland's fanning over 9.7 batters per contest. They're taking on a Cubbies team who lost 5 out of their last 7 ball games themselves. The Chicago lineup's also in the bottom 3 in the league in hits on average per contest. They're also averaging only 7.1 hits a game at Wrigley Field. Albert Alzolay comes into today's start with a 4.06 ERA and a 4.06 ERA. Yeah. Total-wise, 4 out of Chicago's last 6 home games did get over the posted number. Meanwhile, the Indians are 70% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians, plus 1.5, and the over 7.5 runs. Next matchup, Reds versus the Twins, 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Cincinnati Reds are minus $1.25, numbers 9.5. Tyler Mahle for Cincinnati, Jay Happ for Minnesota. The Happ's got a 6.12 ERA and a 1.44 whip. The Twins are currently 11 games below 500, and they have a losing home record. Minnesota's gotten the W in only 14 out of 35 home games. The Twins are also in the bottom 3 in runs allowed per contest, and they allow over 9.2 hits a game on their home field. They're taking on a Cincy team who has a winning record in their interleague contests. The Reds are also in the top 5 in hits on average per game. Nick Castellanos is leading the majors in batting average. The outfielder is currently hitting .344 and has an OPS of .986, which is in the top 10 as well. Meanwhile, Jesse Winker is second in the majors in batting average, right behind Castellanos. Winker's hitting .341 and has an OPS of 1.023, which is third in the majors. When it comes to the pitching in this one, Tyler Mahle's gone 7-2 with a 3.39 ERA and a 1.09 whip. Mahle's just 10 strikeouts short of the century mark already as well. Now, total-wise, since he's 60% to the over in their last 10, Minnesota's 22-13 to the over on their home field. Give me the Cincinnati Reds minus $1.25 and the over 9.5. Next ball game, Brewers D-backs 9:40 East. Milwaukee's minus 120, totals 9.5. Brett Anderson for Milwaukee, Merrill Kelly for Arizona. Kelly's 2-7 with a 5.40 ERA and a 1.37 whip. The D-backs are still stuck on 20 wins as they haven't gotten a W in a real long time. And as a matter of fact, Arizona hasn't tasted victory since June 1st. And they're a league worst 33 games below 500. Arizona's dead last in runs allowed, dead last in hits allowed. They're taking on a Milwaukee club who won their last 2 straight. They're tied with Chicago for first place in the NL Central. And the first place Brewers are 20-12 in their road games against the National League. Their pitching staff also leads the majors in strikeouts. They're fanning 10.3 batters a game. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, 3 out of Milwaukee's last 4 road games got over the line, 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. Meanwhile, the D-backs went 5-1 to the over in their last 6 at Chase Field, 80% to the over in their last 10 outings as well. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers minus 120 and the over 9.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Dodgers versus the Padres, 10:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The San Diego Padres are minus 130, total at 7. Yu Darvish for the Pods, Julio Urias for Los Angeles. Urias is 9-2 with a 3.54 ERA and a 1.00 whip. The lefties struck out 90 batters in 84 innings. The Dodgers lead the majors in fewest hits allowed on the road. They're holding their opponents to just 6.6 hits a game when they travel. They're also holding their opponents to just 3.8 runs a game. They're taking on a Padres club who hasn't been stellar at the plate this year. They're in the bottom half of the league in both runs per game on the road along with hits. And for some reason, if this line ends up, flipping and you see the Padres as the underdog, which could very well happen. Just keep in mind the Pods have been victorious in only 6 of 16 ball games as the underdog. Now, total-wise, 3 out of San Diego's last 4 home games got over the line. LA went 3-1 to the over in their last 4 away from home themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers plus $110 and the over 7 runs. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the New York Mets winning Game 1 of the doubleheader for some money line cash. I also like Houston minus 165 over 10 runs. Oakland A's minus 135 under 8.5. Cleveland plus 1.5 over 7.5. Cincinnati minus $1.25 over 9.5 runs. Milwaukee minus $1.20 over 9.5. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 2-0 in our last 2 board member tier package picks on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 60% in our last 10 board member tier package picks in that very same category. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers plus $110 and the over 7 runs. With that, guys, now it's time for our shout-outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Jeff Baker, Hishiro Nakabizi, Adam Smith, Plant-Based Junkie, Moneybank27. Shout out to Houston Gilliland, Dom Hughes, Oliver Torres. Shout out to El Boogie. And last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my good friend, Lori Bauer. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys do end up getting a package here today on my Patreon website, just keep in mind Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on that website, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of June. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.